Hello and welcome to World News Tonight here on TVP World with me, Ashim Kumar. Our main focus tonight is the latest from the war in Ukraine. We'll also be talking about the humanitarian and political crisis in Venezuela. That and much more coming up in just a minute. But first, let's take a look at tonight's headlines. Russia has failed to push Ukrainian troops out of the Kursk region despite Russian reinforcements arriving. Serbians have taken to the streets of Belgrade to protest a huge lithium mining project. And the Olympic Games in Paris have almost ended with Poland winning an unexpected silver medal. It's the sixth day of Ukraine's incursion into Russia, and Moscow has so far been unable to push Ukrainian troops out of the Kursk region. This is despite the reinforcements the Russians have sent to the area. President Zelensky also acknowledged the attack on a Saturday evening. We're now going live to our Ukraine correspondent, Oz Kataji, who has the latest on the situation. Hi, Oz, what can you tell us?
So, the news from last night came in that President Zelensky, who previously referred to the operation only in cryptic, indirect terms, directly acknowledged the Ukrainian operation in the Kursk region, well, without name-checking Kursk. Let's take a listen to what he had to say.
First of all, I want to acknowledge all our warriors this week, the combat brigades that are effectively defending our state and destroying the occupier. We are paying close attention to the entire front. Today, I received several reports from Commander-in-Chief Alexander Syrsky regarding the front lines and our actions to push the war into the aggressor's territory. I am grateful to each unit of our defense forces which has ensured this. Ukraine is proving that it can indeed restore justice and impose the necessary pressure on the aggressor.
So all signs there from Kyiv that they're not expecting to withdraw from the Kursk region anytime soon. And as you rightly stated, Russia has been sending reinforcements for days now and have had no success in dislodging this Ukrainian incursion. So still no real clarity on what the objectives are and how long this may pan out for. But for the time being, Russia's really struggling to do anything about this Ukrainian incursion onto their land. Now, in Ukraine today, we also had bad news. 8 people have been killed and at least 30 injured in attacks across the country. A bad one in particular happening in Kyiv. A father and a son killed in a North Korean missile attack on the Kyiv region, which again has caused another fierce condemnation from Zelensky, saying we need to continue to tell our partners what is needed to close the Ukrainian sky. And then he went on to name check to Shahid drones and North Korean missiles, making very clear that Russia is being supplied these weapons by its allies, and Ukraine asking its allies in return to help it defend the skies from these aerial attacks that are causing so much devastation to Ukrainian families across the country. Back to you in the studio.
Indeed, safe space being essential in the skies. Oz, thank you for that update and stay safe. Thousands took to the streets of Belgrade to protest a huge lithium mining project in western Serbia. The demonstrators believe that the mine will pollute nearby land and water. The project, however, does have the European Union support.
Crowds of protesters chanting slogans such as "You will not dig" and calling on the British-Australian mining giant Rio Tinto to withdraw from Serbia swept through the country's capital.
I am here to give myself a chance to never be ashamed in front of my own children, and to be able to say that I did something for the well-being of my children and for the well-being of all of us.
Activists also took over two of the city's main railway stations. They believe the mine will severely damage the region's local natural environment.
It is a planetary moment, but it is also true patriotism to fight for clean water, for clean air, and for clean land that feeds all of us in Serbia. Jadar is not for sale.
Many geologists say that the Jadar Valley is home to Europe's biggest deposit of lithium and 1.3% of the world's recognized lithium reserves. Its value is estimated at €4 billion. According to Serbian media, 1.1 million electric vehicles could be built using lithium from the valley. Lithium is used for more than just smartphone battery production. It also plays a vital role in medicine, where it is used to treat bipolar disorder.
In general, I don't think there's anything wrong with mining, with advanced technologies and all, but it must be carried out by someone who is professional and much less corrupt than this government. I understand that everyone has to be a little bit corrupt, but they are rock bottom. I have no confidence in them for that matter.
The Serbian president says the protests are politically motivated and that their main aim is to topple him.
There is no digging, no changes on the ground, nor will there be until we get all the guarantees in the next 12 to 18 months. You get deceived every day. We have to collect all the documentation, call the best environmental protection experts, those who will be able to guarantee us that all people will be absolutely safe, that they will be able to do their work.
In July, Serbia signed a deal with the EU to develop the mining project. The country currently holds candidate status to join the Union. Brussels would like to import large amounts of lithium from Serbia in the future, to help lower its dependence on China in this regard.
As the conflict between Israel and Hamas continues to escalate, the death toll in Gaza becomes more and more difficult to determine. The recent attack on a school mosque compound claimed the lives of reportedly over 100 people. The IDF reports on the situation claim the attack took lives of 19 militants and that the casualty numbers reported by the Palestinian Health Ministry were inflated. According to a study published by the Lancet journal, the real death toll of the war in Gaza could exceed 186,000 people.
As of today, the current death toll in Gaza, as reported by the Palestinian Health Ministry, stands at 39,790 lives. But this number has long been disputed, with various humanitarian organizations speculating that the real death toll of Israel's war in Gaza is much higher. Air Wars, a civilian harm monitoring organization, says that this is due to the declining quality of information coming out of the Strip.
Partly because there's been a number of internet blackouts, partly because a large number of people who were reporting or working at the beginning of the war have either left or been killed or injured. Our reporting and our work draws a distinction wherever possible between civilians and militants.
The number is difficult to estimate due to many factors, such as conflicting reports from the Israeli and Palestinian sides, the number of people considered missing, and the rapidly decreasing quality of life in Gaza that majorly increases health risks for the population, leading to more sickness and death.
We unfortunately have registered positive cases on samples taken on sewage of polio. You might have heard this. And colleagues of WHO and the humanitarian community are working as we speak about putting up a plan to deal with the risk of polio contamination.
But the organizations are doing their best to verify the death toll.
We know that the Palestinian Ministry of Health list was only recorded from those bodies that were taken to morgues. So if a body was, if a civilian was killed and they remained under rubble, for example, then they would not have been recorded in the Palestinian Ministry of Health list.
Air Wars cross-checked the data they gather. So far, they found that 75% of all the names reported by Palestinians themselves also appeared on the Ministry of Health list of the deceased. The Lancet, a medical journal, said back in July that collecting data is becoming increasingly difficult for the Gaza Health Ministry due to the destruction of much of the infrastructure. The most recent strike on a school mosque compound in the Strip claimed the lives of reportedly at least 100 people. The spokesperson for the IDF released a statement detailing the military casualties of the attack.
The names of 19 of these terrorists operating in this compound were published by us today. We also have intelligence indications that the terrorist Ashraf Judah, Islamic Jihad's brigade commander of the central camps, was at the compound.
The fallout from the conflict is spreading.
Starting from the 7th of October, the United Nations has verified 572 Palestinians that has been killed in the West Bank, of which 141 were children.
Many political figures have repeatedly called for a de-escalation of the conflict between Israel and Hamas. Most recently, Josep Borrell and Olaf Scholz called on Benjamin Netanyahu to prioritize reaching a ceasefire.
Of course, it's not just a question of numbers. Unfortunately, the war is dragging on and the death toll is very high. For the media, it's just a number that's rising like the stock market. But everyone has a story, and every house has its own misfortunes to tell.
The initial batch of the so-called first-person view drones produced in Lithuania will soon arrive in Ukraine. Drones from 5 producers have successfully passed tests carried out by the Ukrainian Ministry of Defense in conditions meant to simulate the battlefield.
This was the second trial attempt, as in the first phase, the Lithuanian drones encountered technical issues and had not met combat requirements. The first deliveries are planned for the second half of September. Thanks to this testing process, Lithuania is now considering purchasing drones that have undergone tests in Ukraine. In the future, Lithuania plans to test each new purchase in Ukraine before finalizing any contracts. Lithuania will allocate €10 million for support for Ukraine. 3 million of this sum will be allocated for drones for the Lithuanian army, and the rest will be used for the purchase of reconnaissance drones for Ukraine. In July, the Lithuanian government signed contracts for the purchase of various drones manufactured in the Baltic states. These contracts are worth a total of €36 million. Most of the deliveries are expected to be made in autumn this year, with the remaining deliveries coming in early 2025. These developments come as a reaction to the growing use of drones in the war in Ukraine.
2 weeks after the elections that many hoped would bring change, Venezuela is still in chaos as protests against the results spread across the country. Humanitarian aid from many countries, including Poland, is pouring into the troubled country, where the population is on the verge of a humanitarian crisis.
Nicolas Maduro's victory was announced at 11 p.m. local time on the day of the elections. This announcement sparked mass protests throughout the country. Thousands took to the streets to express their anger and frustration with the results. About 2,000 protesters were arrested and 20 people have been killed as the government continues to crack down on dissent.
I came to the street. We want freedom. We are tired of this government. We want a change. We want to be free in Venezuela. What happened is clear to us. It's clear we won by 80% with Edmundo González.
They stole from us because Maduro is genocidal. We must fight for democracy in this country. We need to keep on fighting for the young people, the youth, and my grandchildren and my children who left this country.
Since seizing power in 2013, Maduro has ruled Venezuela with an iron fist, bringing the economy to its knees. Although it takes more than $500 to feed a family of 5 in Venezuela, the country's minimum wage totals $3.50 per month. 92% of people live below the poverty line.
When I was still in Venezuela, I could hardly afford to eat once a day if I wanted to feed my 2 daughters. That's why I decided to emigrate to Colombia. When we arrived, I took my daughters to a health clinic for immigrants, and they were both anemic and malnourished.
The country's enduring economic and political crisis has led to nearly 8 million Venezuelans choosing to leave their home since Maduro took power. About 17,000 migrants cross Colombia's border with Venezuela on the Bolivar Bridge every day.
Frustration was so big that I felt that I could die in the next protest. My family is right now extremely scary. They don't have electricity. The connections, telecommunication is working. Sometimes yes, sometimes no.
Caritas Poland is currently in Colombia. near the border with Venezuela, where it distributes aid to Venezuelans fleeing the country. So far, its Package for Venezuela program helped more than 30,000 people. With donor support, the program has so far distributed €1.2 million worth of aid.
After this news bulletin, I will be joined by Nina Mocio from Caritas Poland, who'll be talking about the latest on the situation in the country, so stay tuned. Donald Trump's campaign communication systems have reportedly been hacked. The former US president has blamed Iran for the incident. Donald Trump announced that his campaign had been hacked in a post on the social media platform Truth Social. Citing past grievances, Trump claims the hacking to have been the work of the Iranian government. He has not presented any evidence to support this claim. However, Politico has been able to independently verify that Trump's campaign was indeed hacked. But the identity and motive of the hackers remains unknown. Politico also said it had received emails from an anonymous account with documents supposedly from the Trump campaign in July. Iran's permanent mission to the United Nations in New York said that the Iranian government neither possesses nor harbors any intent or motive to interfere in the US presidential election. The official closing ceremony of the Paris Olympic Games will take place this evening. Many Polish fans have been disappointed with the Polish national team's performance this year. Despite this sentiment, cyclist Daria Pikulik's surprise silver medal has been some consolation, as she was the last Polish athlete to compete in Paris.
The success of Pikulik is particularly satisfying due to the difficulties and challenges she had to deal with during her preparations for the Games.
I did the best I could with what I had during the preparations, despite the dire outlook of our situation, despite having to pay for the grouping out of pocket in February, despite not having information about financing till April, despite not having bikes. We had nothing. We received our suits a day before the beginning.
Thanks to Pikulik's tenacity, Poland has somewhat improved its Paris medal tally, with Poles ultimately winning 10 medals.
I was the junior world champion in the points race. Being able to do a points race is in my blood. I'm always able to make up the points in this race.
Poland was expected to finish with a single-digit number of medals for the first time since the 1956 Games in Melbourne, but the final result was the same as the one in Athens in 2004. During the Beijing, London and Rio de Janeiro Games, Poland secured 11 medals and 14 3 years ago in Tokyo. Poland's only gold medal was won by speed climber Aleksandra Mirosław, who made 2 new world records in the process. Silvers, apart from Pikulik, were won by the Polish men's volleyball players, slalom canoeist Klaudia Zwolinska and boxer Julia Szeremeta. Runner Natalia Kaczmarek, tennis player Iga Świątek, the female fencers, the men's quadruple sculls, and speed climber Aleksandra Kałucka all secured bronze medals. Interestingly, Poland's male athletes did not win any individual medals in Paris. This has happened only once before in Polish history, at the 1928 Olympic Games.
Now, tensions between Turkey and Germany are rising, though not over something exactly political. It all concerns everyone's favourite meaty dish, the doner kebab. The European Union has entered the discussion phase on granting the dish protected status. Turkey initiated the motion, and Germany hasn't responded too kindly to it. Here's more.
Doner's humble origins have long been the subject of debate, but Turkey does hold a pretty solid claim since it's named the kebab its national dish. The International Doner Federation, the UFED, located in Istanbul, aims to secure the necessary certification within the EU. In the 1960s, the kebab reached Western Europe with migrant workers aiming to help alleviate Berlin's worker shortage. The dish quickly rose to fame, cementing its place in the Hall of Fame of German cuisine. Several European foods currently enjoy similar protections that Turkey is petitioning for. For example, Poland's oscypek, Italy's Neapolitan pizza, or many of the French cheeses. If successful, the application would prohibit businesses in the European Union from naming their dishes doner kebab unless they were prepared using specified meat, spices, and marinated for specific duration to meet established criteria. The German Minister of Food and Agriculture recently took to X to express his opinion on Turkey's application.
The doner kebab belongs to Germany. Everyone should be able to decide for themselves how it is prepared and eaten here. There is no need for any specifications from Ankara.
Among the tensions, back in April, the German president Frank-Walter Steinmeier had the chance to practice his own doner skills in Istanbul, Turkey. We spoke to some Turkish kebab chefs here in Warsaw to ask them about their opinion on the matter.
Is Turkish food, Poland or other countries, and Turkish people is coming here. Very good.
Here's how a chef in Germany reflects on the dish.
I think we want to be a Berlin restaurant with Turkish and German roots. It suits as well because our team is very diverse.
Berlin worries that a protected status would trigger significant price hikes, negatively impacting German consumers. According to the Association of Turkish Doner Producers in Europe, the doner European industry is estimated to be worth a staggering 3.5 billion euros. For now, the doner debate continues in the European Commission.
Now we go back to Venezuela. As we reported only a few minutes ago, the humanitarian crisis in Venezuela is growing. Plagued by economic woes, nearly 8 million people have left the country since 2015. The situation has been exacerbated since the re-election of President Nicolas Maduro 2 weeks ago in what many believe were rigged elections, which has triggered nationwide protests. Humanitarian aid from Poland is being distributed at the Venezuelan border with Colombia by Caritas Poland. Now, for an update on the latest situation, I am pleased to be joined by Nina Mocher of Caritas Polska, Humanitarian and Development Aid Manager. Welcome, Nina, to TVP World, and thank you very much for taking the time.
Good evening.
Good evening to you. So, you've just come back from there, from the border between Venezuela and Colombia. You've seen this increase in refugees coming into Colombia. What can you tell us? What's the situation like?
You know, everyone is saying that the situation is complex. I would say it's dramatic. As humanitarians, we would normally classify this as a very severe humanitarian crisis. We say migration crisis, but, you know, normally when we talk about migration, we say it's voluntary.
Right.
This one is not voluntary.
Right.
You know, it's normally people are fleeing in fear for their lives, for the lives of their families. This is enormous crisis, and people would be deciding soon to even further, you know, in big numbers, to leave the country. And what is very surprising, they are still holding on hope, and still they are staying. So even we are really surprised that the statistics from the border are not as high as we could think, because they are still waiting for the results. They are still waiting for assistance in the country. They are still keeping hope. So when this hope is gone, this is going to be another very large scale.
It's going to be a flood.
Crisis.
So, okay, so you mentioned some interesting things. You talk about fear of life for themselves and their families. So it's a combination of things that's driving them out. Yes, it's that, of course, because there's political violence. I mean, you know, hundreds of people have been killed, 2,000 people arrested, and so on. But there's also the economic element, is there not? The monthly wage, average minimum monthly wage is $3.50, and a family of four needs over $500 a month to survive. I mean, so all of this is coming together.
Yes, people are starving, like literally.
Right.
When we were talking to people at the border, they said, "Oh, I have $1 note in my pocket. I do not have money." Or someone to bring me to the border just took my phone, my belongings from me. They are running away and they are starving. They mentioned that they cannot eat 2 meals per day. Children are going hungry, sleeping, you know.
Right. So how is Caritas helping? What are you doing there that is making these people's lives easier?
So first of all, I want to mention that we have been there for the last 5 years. Mm-hmm. So yes, we are starting with the 5th edition of our Paczka for Venezuela, so package for Venezuela, which was food support since 2020, since pandemic, when the crisis was just enormously, multi-layer crisis again because of pandemic, right? And now we were assessing situation. So this is why yesterday night I came back from Bogota, and we were at the border in Cucuta and around. And people want food, people need food, and people, especially those passing by, some of them, they are trying to cross the border illegal, because the statistics you are mentioning, they're only for the official border crossing.
Right.
But there are many who cannot cross and go further, to the south, to the city capital of Bogota, or to the north. So we want to assist them in this journey, because especially our extra part of the program will be focusing on providing them with, these packages for transportation,
right,
and packages of the shoes. Some of them, they do not have any shoes. Some of them, they do not have, warm jackets, and for hygiene items, so they can be safely traveling through the country.
So where are they going from Colombia?
So many of them, they would be choosing a very dangerous route to the north, to Panama, because this is the way, they would go to United States normally, or they would go to the south through very dangerous checkpoints of different armed groups, because let's not forget that Colombia is also a complicated environment for them because of the active armed conflict. So they would be trying to get to the south to cross the border with Ecuador, to go to other countries in Latin America.
Now, this must really be a strain on the Colombian infrastructure. How's the Colombian government and economy dealing with it?
Well, until now, there is not such contingency plan, and this is very surprising. Yeah, that they are not really ready. I mean, I think everyone was expecting something.
Right. Yeah,
That's very clear.
Yeah.
That we were expecting, they were expecting something else. So Colombia is not very active in contingency planning, and this is very surprising, even for us as humanitarian organization. And people are saying, yes, of course, whatever happens in Venezuela will affect us. And this is already affecting them, because the labor market has been, a little bit destabilized because of this migration flow. So that's very clear.
Right. Now, you look at some statistics which say that even those who have managed to get into Colombia are still living well below the poverty line there. They can't get jobs, or certainly not jobs that pay sufficient. What's the situation there? Is there friction between the people coming from Venezuela looking for jobs and Colombians? That's
very interesting to see these different pictures of cross-border and border city of Cucuta, for example, and the region, and Bogota, of course. Even people in difficult situation of Colombian origin, they are fleeing to the city, which is very normal. So that's very natural flow of internal migration in many countries. So competition for jobs is extreme in the city capital, including, we also visited suburbs of Bogota, and living conditions are horrible. This is really favelas of Bogota. Yeah, the situation is very clear. There is no sanitation, there is no running water in those settlements. So the conditions are dire. The second thing, for the cross-border activities, this is very amazing, because they are really working together. They see that we have been together for always, so there is not such a difficult situation in integration of those migrants.
Right.
And of course, for years, this is a cross-border economics.
Right.
Even, what is very interesting, even the city Sant Antonio, which is on the Venezuelan border close to Bolivar International Bridge, they are using peso. They are not using Bolivar, or they're using peso and dollars, because this is indeed one organism, cross-border.
Understood. Yeah. So tell us more now about Caritas Poland. Where is it getting its resources from? Is the Polish government supporting it, and so on?
At the moment, which is very beautiful, this is our donation program. This is our private donors program. So this is why we really want to inform people about the situation, to encourage you to support us, and to our, maybe our viewers, because this is coming from private donations. At the moment, we are, of course, coordinating for some other resources, but at the moment, this is just fundraising campaign that we are running regularly for this program for Venezuelans.
Okay, so Nina, very, very quickly, unfortunately we have to end there, but thank you very much for sharing those insights with our audience. Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye-bye. And that was Nina Mucha from Caritas Polska, and that's all from us in this news bulletin. Good night.